A walkout at the UN as delegates turn their backs on Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. His speech a firestorm of attacks, slamming the United States for its policy in the Middle East, assailing Israel for its treatment of the Palestinians. Defiant throughout, giving not an inch. And joining me now to talk more about this is Jamie Rubin, who was President Bill Clinton's Assistant Secretary of State for Public Affairs, now an adjunct professor at Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs. That's a mouthful. And Fareed Zakaria, our own Fareed Zakaria, who's host of CNN's Fareed Zakaria GPS. Welcome to both of you. Fareed, let me get your reaction generally. You heard him condemn the West, America, and especially Israel. Not anything new per se, but what do you make of it? What does it mean?
Oh, it's completely the same old, same old. But what's interesting here is that Ahmadinejad has been on a campaign over the last few weeks to change the subject. His great fear was that he would come to New York and the subject would be the Iranian regime and his massive repression of the democracy movement in Iran, of street protests, all the allegations being made by Iranians about what is happening in Iran, rape, torture, abuse, etc. So what he wanted to do was to talk about anything but that. And so he fell back on the familiar themes. He hadn't talked about the Holocaust for 2 years. He mentioned it last week. The usual anti-Israeli rants. Even the nuclear issue is great for him, just as long as he doesn't want to talk about the most important news story coming out of Iran in the last 30 years.
In Iran.
Exactly.
But so was he effective? I mean, you know, he raised the Holocaust, denying the Holocaust again in this interview with Katie Kirk we showed earlier. I mean, that does seem to get everyone's attention off of what's happened over the last few months.
Which is why I'm trying to remind people that this is a conscious strategy on his part.
We also just quickly saw several delegates walk out. Quite a repudiation, but I mean, were you surprised, I guess? Was it more forceful in terms of sort of the response to him or sending him a message?
It was actually, yeah. I was surprised that there were more than you would have expected. And I think that, you know, at this point it is very difficult to take Ahmadinejad seriously in the sense of being anything other than a spokesman for what has become a pretty brutal military dictatorship. Even the theocratic facade of this regime has been stripped away. It is very clearly a regime run by the Revolutionary Guards, and this guy is, you know, perhaps even just a mouthpiece.
Jamie, from the U.S. perspective, so much, and from Israel's perspective, for that matter, this is all really about the nuclear issue. Just explain to us where things stand now. You know, a conversation that is pretty much not taking place anytime soon. What happens?
Well, it will begin to be taking place when the Iranians sit down with the European countries, the Russians, and the United States over the coming weeks and months. And I think there are some clocks ticking, and this